Hey guys, welcome to my channel. In this video I want to discuss what the viruses are and how they can affect our lives. After the COVID-19 pandemic that ravaged the world in 2020, it made most of us to realize the huge impact that a virus can have upon our lives. Most of us at one time or another had dealt with different kind of viruses like flu, influenza, or even common cold. The symptoms generally like fever, congestion, coughing, sore throat. It spreads through our environments. Like when you're taking a bus, if someone is infected, it can easily transfer to other people, and the other people could be carrier and could transfer it to other peoples as well. So the viruses could spread really fast. Cold and influenza are caused by viruses, and each year many of us can catch one or several one of them. But the viruses are responsible for many other serious and deadly diseases, including COVID-19, AIDS, Ebola, hemorrhage fever, and etc. etc. Okay, right now we want to evaluate how viruses can be so difficult to control, how we can control them, and how we can treat them. In this video, I want to explore the world of viruses with you. Now let's discuss what is a virus and how they're working. Our body is a collection of different types of cells, bacteria, and viruses. A cell is a standalone living entity which is able to eat, grow, and reproduce. However, viruses are not like that at all. If we can look closer to a virus, we'd notice that virus particles are about 1 millionth of an inch. Most viruses are many times smaller than bacteria, though giant viruses which discovered at 2003 are about the same size of bacteria, but we clearly know that bacteria are far more larger than viruses. It's noteworthy to know that viruses are not clearly visible by light microscope. A virus particle or a virion consists of following particles. First, nucleic acid, which is set of genetic instructions, either DNA or RNA, either single-stranded or double-stranded. A coat of protein surrounded the DNA or RNA to protect it, and lipid membrane which surrounded the protein coat. Viruses have vast groups, and according to their shape, their structure, they could be classified as different types. Their shape might vary from a simple form like a ball shaped to complicated shapes like spiders or Apollo lunar landers. Unlike human cells or bacteria, viruses don't contain any chemical machineries or enzymes which are needed to carry out chemical reactions for life. Instead, viruses carry only one or two enzymes that decode their genetic instructions. So, a virus must have a host cell or a bacteria or a plant and animal in which to live and make more viruses. Outside of the host cell, viruses cannot function. For this reason, viruses thread the fine line of separates living things from non-living things. Most scientists agree that viruses are alive because of what happens when they infect a host cell. Now let's review how viruses infect our bodies. Viruses lie around our environment all the time and just waiting for the right host cell in order to come along. They can enter us through our eyes, our nose, our mouth, or any bricks along our skin. Once they reach inside our host cell, they start to replicate. For example, a cold or flu viruses will attack cells that are line the respiratory or digestive tract. The human immunodeficiency virus, which causes AIDS, attacks the T cells of immune system. Regardless of type of host cell, viruses follow same basic steps to replicate. It starts with adsorption stage, where a virus particle attaches to a host cell. The particle releases its genetic instruction into the host cell, and the injected genetic material recreates the host cell's enzymes. The enzymes make part for more new virus particles, and the new particle assembles the part into new viruses. The new particle breaks free from the host cell and separates, and this chain continues all over again. All viruses have some type of protein on the outside coat or envelope that feels or recognizes the proper host cell. This protein attaches the virus to the membrane of host cell. Some enveloped viruses can dissolve right through the cell membrane of host because both the virus envelope and the cell membrane are made of lipids. Those viruses that do not enter the cell must inject their contents, mean genetic instructions or enzymes, into the host cell. Those viruses that dissolve into a cell simply release the content once inside the host. In either case, the results are the same. Once viruses get inside the cell, the viral enzymes take over those enzymes of the host cell and begin making copies of viral genetic instructions and new viral proteins. Using the virus's genetic instructions, the cell's enzyme machinery. The new copies of the viral genetic instructions are packed inside the new protein codes to make new viruses. Once the new viruses are made, they leave the host cell in one of two ways. They break the host cell and destroy the host cell. They pinch out the cell membrane and break away with piece of cell membrane surrounding them. This is how enveloped viruses leave the cell. In this way, the host cell is not destroyed. Once free from the host cell, the new viruses can attack another cells. Because one virus can reproduce thousands of new viruses, viral infections can spread quickly throughout the body. The sequence of events that occurs when you come down with the flu or cold is a good demonstration of how a virus works. First, an infected person sneezes near you. You inhale the virus particle and it attaches to cell lining in the sinuses in your nose. The virus attacks the cells lining in sinuses and rapidly reproduces new viruses. The host cell breaks and new viruses spreads in your bloodstream and also in your lungs because you have host cells lining in your sinuses. Fluid can flow into the nasal passage and give you a runny nose. Viruses in the fluid that drips down your throat attacks the cells lining in your throat and give you a sore throat. Viruses in your bloodstream can attack muscle cells and cause you to have muscle aches. So you might ask, okay, I got infected by virus. Now what's the role of my immune system? Your immune system responds to the infection, and in the process of fighting, it produces chemical called pyrogens that cause your body temperature to rise. This fever actually helps you to fight the infection by slowing down the rate of viral reproduction because most of your body's chemical because most of body's chemical reactions have an optimal temperature of 27 degrees of Celsius. If your temperature rises slightly above this, the reaction slows down. The immune response continues until the viruses are eliminated from our body. However, if you sneeze, you can just spread thousands of new viruses into the environment to await another host. So the next step is called as lysogenic cycle. In this cycle, the virus reproduces by first injecting its genetic material indicated in the red line into the host cell's genetic instructions. Once inside the host cell, some viruses such as herpes and HIV do not reproduce right away. Instead, they mix their genetic instructions into the host cell's genetic instruction. When the host cell reproduces, the viral genetic instructions get copied into the new host cell's offspring. The host cell may undergo many rounds of reproduction, and then some environmental or predetermined genetic signals will steer the sleeping viral instructions. The viral genetic instructions will then take over the host's machinery and make new viruses as desired above. This cycle, called lysogenic cycle, because a virus is merely a set of genetic instructions surrounded by a protein code, and because it does not carry out any biochemical reactions of its own, viruses can live for years or longer outside the host cell. Some viruses can sleep inside the genetic instructions of the host cell for years before reproducing. For example, a person infected with HIV can live without showing any symptoms of AIDS for years, but he or she can still separate the virus to the others. As we discussed, viruses are not living organisms and they can live outside a host cell for a long time before they separate. So this is really important to understand the nature of virus and how we can control and eliminate them. The viruses can be separated through the following means. Some of them require carrier organisms like mosquitoes, fleas, and other carriers. Some of them are spreading through the air. The others needs direct transfer of body fluids from one person to another, like saliva, sweat, nasal mucus, blood, and finally, surfaces on which body fluids have dried can be contagious and a great environment for viruses to grow and spread. To reduce the risk of spreading or contacting viruses, here are things that we can do. We can cover our mouth or nose when sneeze or cough by using tissue, or cover your mouth or sneezing into elbow. Washing our hands frequently and avoid direct contact with bodily fluids of the others. We also need to consider wearing face masks in public and don't touch our face. These practices are not foolproof, but they can help to reduce the risk significantly. Contrary to popular belief, antibiotics have no effect on viruses. Most antibiotics interfere with the reproduction of bacteria, hindering their creation of new genetic instructions or new cell walls. Because viruses do not carry out their own biochemical reactions, antibiotics do not affect them. Immunization works by pre-infecting the body so it knows how to produce the right antibodies as soon as the virus starts reproducing. Also, because viruses reproduce so quickly and they so often, they can often change slightly. Sometimes mistakes creep into their genetic instructions. These changes might alter the protein code slightly, so 1 year's batch of vaccine might not be as effective against the same type of virus next year. This is why new vaccines must be produced consistently to fight viral infection and prevent outbreaks. Not all viruses are deadly. For example, people get cold all the time and they do not die, but influenza kills tens of thousands of people in the United States each year, and the other viruses such as Ebola virus, West Nile virus, and in early 2020 COVID-19 viruses have inflicted a heavy death toll worldwide. And even these commonplace viral infections can be deadly to a person who already has a weakened immune system. People with AIDS, cancer, patients taking chemotherapy, elderly people, or newborns. We have to take care not to spread virus to these especially susceptible people. After the emergencies of COVID-19 as a worldwide health threat in the late 2019, public health authorities emphasized a tactic called social distancing to help slow spread of virus. Basically, it involves maintaining a physical distance of about 1.8 meters between people and staying away from gathering or crowded places. The idea is to prevent the spread of virus through the spray of droplets when an infected person coughs or sneezes. In many parts of the United States, officials closed businesses, schools, and other places where people might come into contact with other individuals. While no one expected to social distancing would eliminate new infections, the aim was to slow the disease spread, also known as flattening the curve, so that hospitals could not overwhelm overly. Although the viruses could be contagious and life-threatening, by doing medical practices, by doing social distancing, it is highly likely and more possible to control them. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you liked, please subscribe us.